you're flipping a house or getting it ready for sale, the first thing you want to do is redo the kitchen and bathrooms. This was our first time getting a house ready for sale, so we wanted to keep it as low budget as possible. And if we can recycle rather than throw things away, we prefer to do that. There was a lot to do to update this kitchen, and I'll post a future video on each of the things that we did. But this video is focusing on how updating the Formica countertops went horribly, horribly wrong. Okay, so who doesn't love the look of marble? But the price is absolutely outrageous. I saw some blogs from people who painted their Formica countertops to look like marble. Their countertops all looked amazing. After painting, they all poured an epoxy resin called Envirotex Lite to coat them. Now, I personally like the look of the Calicut marble. I like the few deep chunks of color with most of the veining beneath the lower layers. This really appealed to me because it makes the counters look very clean. Now, I'm not an artist, so I took about a month to do research on how to create this. Different types of paints, different techniques. I watched so many painting videos and marbling tricks. I really wanted to get it right. After about a month, I took the plunge. I prepped the countertops and sprayed on the primer. I wasn't pleased with the ridges between the top and side Formica pieces, so I bought a router and some router bits, and I taught myself how to use it. I selected a rounded profile and I routed the edges of both countertops. Then sanded them to make a smooth transition. I sealed the bare edges with wood filler and waited for it to dry. Then applied the primer and base coat. I really like the new rounded profile edge. So I had my blank canvas and it was time to paint. As I said, I'm no artist, so it took me about 3 weeks to paint the two countertops and the windowsill. I did so many layers, used different sponging techniques, feather techniques, water techniques, sanding, dabbing, outlining. I did layer after layer. It was truly a labor of love. I'll post a video later on how I created the veining. I didn't really record enough to post an instructional video. I was actually just recording clips to remind myself how to repeat this on the next house that we flip. So I'll do my best in a future video to walk you through it. But anyway, after about 3 weeks of obsessing, I was satisfied. I bought the epoxy that literally every blog suggested, Envirotex Lite, and I poured it on. Now, this is inexpensive compared to real marble, but this was not cheap. A 32-ounce box is about $40. I made multiple trips to my neighboring Michael's and Hobby Lobby so I could use their 50% off and 40% off coupons. So on average, I spent about $20 per box. At first, I used the guidelines in the instructions to determine how much to use. For just this one countertop, I used 6 boxes, 1.5 gallons. That's $120. Waited 3 days, removed the drop cloth, and was really disappointed. Both countertops had this wavy, uneven look and feel. There were many areas with these dips and elevations from where we spread it around. It definitely did not level itself out like it was supposed to. It was awful. I looked up what to do in that situation, and basically the consensus was that not enough epoxy was used. All I could do was recoat it. So I sanded them down to pour another coat on both counters. But for this one counter, I used 8 boxes this time. That's another $160. So now, just for this one counter, I'm in $280. And that's just the cost of the epoxy. Then there was the cost of the spreaders, plastic sheets, tape, blowtorch, construction paper, not to mention the paint supplies, brushes, sponges, feathers, sprayer, respirator, rags, measuring tubs. Plus, you have to use a ton of buckets because you can only mix about a gallon at a time. You have to double mix it, and you can't reuse any of the buckets due to the residue that's left behind. Like I said, this is a less expensive alternative to marble, but this is not cheap. But after it was all done, it was absolutely gorgeous. I was in love. I read warnings from people online saying that they saw indentations when they put heavy things like microwaves on their countertops after 72 hours. So rather than finishing up the kitchen, I decided to let the counter sit undisturbed for 3 weeks while we worked on other areas of the house. In the meantime, we had people come in to do repairs that we couldn't do, like electrical work and air conditioning. 3 different workmen came in here, and not only did they all remark about how beautiful the countertops looked, 2 of them actually took pictures on their phones. I know you can't see the intricate details on camera. The camera truly can't capture it, but it's very realistic with lots of layers and tons of time invested. Anyway, after letting it set for 3 weeks, we came back to finish up the kitchen. This included installing the counter backsplash, the stove backsplash, the trim, the outlets, the ceiling, the chandelier, and the ceiling trim. We've been working at all of this for about 2 weeks, but obviously, since we're working near electricity, the power has been off in here. So to provide light, we used 2 lamps plugged into the dining room socket. No light was in this room except these 2 lamps. So after about 2 weeks of having these lamps on the brand new countertop, this is the result. It turned the countertop completely yellow. Look at the front counter compared to the one in the back. It's yellow like a banana. It's even more yellow in person than it looks on camera. We didn't notice this was happening because it's so dark in here and we couldn't have the power on. But imagine our shock when we turned on the chandelier and saw this. I literally cried. Spots where the light was directly reflecting are very deep yellow, but the rest of the countertop got a ton of cast-off light. Now let me reiterate, this did not take months and months and years to turn yellow. As you can see, we aren't even done with the kitchen. This has literally taken less than 2 weeks for the counter to turn the color of a banana from freaking lamps. This is not the result of exposure to the sun. Otherwise, the windowsill would be yellow, and so would the countertop by the window. The window has been completely blacked out by construction paper this entire time. I even briefly, for a few hours, moved the lamp to the far counter to line up the backsplash adhesive. And just having the lamp over there for a few hours left a yellow spot. It's not that bad, so I can live with that. This far countertop on the right is truly the control. This one had no lamp placed on it ever, and it's clear and non-yellowed. It looks absolutely perfect. I'm so incredibly upset. This has been so much hard work and effort and planning and money and time and obsessing, all for it to end like this, with a hideous yellow countertop. Now my big issue is that there were no warnings that this could possibly happen. Zero, nothing, nada, zilch. I read all their paperwork. I looked all over their website. There are no warnings about placing lamps on or near their cured epoxy resin. These are regular lamps with regular light bulbs that you get from Walmart. Anyway, I'm going to contact the company and see if they will refund the epoxy so I can redo it. Because it just looks awful, and I put so much into this project. Now, I used a lot of boxes of this stuff, so perhaps I got a bad batch in the mix somewhere. I don't know. Anyway, hopefully the company will do the right thing, but I'll post an update either way of the response that I get from them. And I'll also post on all of the blogs I used for inspiration. As you can see, this has been a horrible nightmare.